September 25, 1942, 11:27 a.m. Gestapo headquarters, Oslo, Norway. SS Sturmbannführer Heinrich Fehlis is sitting at his desk on the 4th floor, reviewing interrogation reports. He's 38 years old, from Munich, been running Gestapo operations in Norway for 8 months. Outside his window, the streets are full of Norwegian civilians going about their day under German occupation. On his desk are files, names, addresses, members of the Norwegian resistance, hundreds of them. Some already arrested, some waiting for pickup, some scheduled for execution tomorrow. Fehlis lights a cigarette, takes a sip of coffee, considers which arrests to prioritize. What he doesn't know is that in exactly 6 minutes, a British Mosquito bomber is going to put a 500-pound bomb through his window at 300 miles per hour. And every file on his desk is about to become smoke and ash. This is the story of Operation Oyster, the most audacious precision bombing raid of World War II, where British bombers flew 1,000 miles to hit one building in the middle of a city without damaging the hospital next door, where Norwegian resistance fighters talked pilots through the attack by radio while hiding in attics, and where the Gestapo learned that nowhere is safe when you're fighting people who know every street in their own city. Welcome to the raid that proved bombing could be a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. Let's talk about why this building mattered. Because to understand what they're about to do, you need to understand what they're destroying. Victoria Terrasse, a 5-story office building in central Oslo. Before the war, it housed Norwegian government offices, insurance companies, boring administrative work. Then Germany invades Norway in April 1940. The Gestapo takes over Victoria Terrasse and turns it into their headquarters. This isn't just an office building anymore. This is the nerve center of Nazi oppression in Norway. Every arrest order goes through here. Every interrogation happens in the basement. Every execution is approved from these offices. And most importantly, this building holds the master files on the Norwegian resistance. Names, safe houses, contact methods, everything the Gestapo has learned in 2 years of hunting patriots. The Norwegian resistance has been feeding intelligence to London for months. They know the building's layout, know the guard schedule, know that the Gestapo keeps prisoners in basement cells awaiting transport to concentration camps. Know that if those files are destroyed, the entire resistance network gets a chance to reorganize before the Germans rebuild their intelligence. But there's a problem. A big one. Right next to Victoria Terrasse is Rikshospitalet, Norway's largest hospital. 20 feet away. Maybe less. The buildings practically touch. Any bombing raid that misses by even 50 feet could kill hundreds of sick and wounded Norwegians. The RAF has a solution. It's called the de Havilland Mosquito. Fastest bomber in the world. Built almost entirely of wood. 2 Rolls-Royce engines. Top speed 380 miles per hour. Can't carry heavy bomb loads like a Lancaster, but it doesn't need to. It's not designed for carpet bombing. It's designed for surgical strikes. And the plan they're proposing is insane. Fly to Oslo at wave-top height to avoid radar. Navigate through Norwegian fjords using visual landmarks. Pop up to building height in the middle of the city. Put bombs through specific windows. Get out before German fighters can respond. The Norwegian resistance will guide them in by radio. We'll confirm which building is the target because from the air, downtown Oslo looks like any other city. And they'll provide real-time intelligence on German defenses. Air Marshal Arthur Harris approves the mission in August 1942. He knows the Mosquito can do it. But he also knows that if they screw this up, if they hit the hospital, the propaganda disaster will be catastrophic. Germans will show pictures of dead Norwegian civilians and say this is what the Allies do. Bomb hospitals. The mission commander is Wing Commander Jeff de Havilland. No relation to the plane's designer, but he's one of the best Mosquito pilots in the RAF. 32 years old. From London. Flew hurricanes in the Battle of Britain. Survived. Got promoted. Now flies the fastest bomber in the world. His navigator is Flight Lieutenant Peter Klebo. 26. Norwegian. Escaped to Britain in 1940. Knows Oslo like the back of his hand. Grew up there. Went to university 3 blocks from Victoria Terrasse. Can navigate the city blindfolded. That skill is about to be tested in the worst possible way. They select 4 Mosquito crews. 8 men total. De Havilland and Klebo in the lead plane. 3 more aircraft as backup. The plan is simple. De Havilland goes in first. If he misses, the next plane tries. If they all miss, they abort and everyone goes home. But they're not going to miss. September 25, 1942. 7:15 a.m. RAF Lutchers, Scotland. 4 mosquitoes take off. They fly north over the North Sea. Wavetop height, 50 feet above the water. At that altitude, German radar can't pick them up. The waves are so close that spray hits the windscreens. One wrong move and they're swimming. Flight Lieutenant Robert Kirkpatrick is flying mosquito number 3, 24 years old, from Edinburgh. This is his 16th combat mission. He's nervous, not about the flying, about what happens if they hit the wrong building. The responsibility. One mistake and people die. Not enemy soldiers. Civilians. In a hospital. They reach the Norwegian coast at 9:30 a.m. Now comes the hard part. They have to navigate through fjords using visual landmarks. No radar. No radio navigation. Just maps and eyeballs and Peter Kleebo's memory of his homeland. The fjords are narrow. Mountains on both sides rising thousands of feet. The mosquitoes are threading through valleys at 300 miles per hour. One miscalculation and you're a fireball on a mountainside. Kleebo is calling out landmarks. Left at the waterfall. Follow that ridge. See the red barn? That's our checkpoint. They're completely dependent on him. If he's wrong, they're lost. If he's forgotten anything in 2 years away from Norway, they're flying blind. But Kleebo doesn't make mistakes. Every landmark appears exactly where he said it would. At 11:15 a.m., they're 12 miles from Oslo. They drop even lower, 30 feet above the fjord. So low that people fishing from boats can see the pilots' faces. Some wave. Some dive for cover. Word is already spreading, British planes. Flying toward Oslo. The Norwegian resistance has radio operators positioned around the city. One of them, a man named Gunnar Sandsteby, is in an attic apartment 4 blocks from Victoria Terrace. He's 25 years old. Been resisting since day 1 of the occupation. Sabotage. Intelligence gathering. Assassination. Done it all. Today his job is simple. Guide the mosquitoes to the target and confirm the hit. Sandsteby has a clear view of Victoria Terrace. He can see Gestapo officers coming and going, can see the guards at the entrance, can see the swastika flag hanging from the 4th floor. His radio is tuned to the RAF frequency. Encrypted. The Germans are listening but can't decode it fast enough to matter. At 11:23 a.m., Sandsteby hears the engines. Low rumble. Getting louder. He looks out the window. Sees 4 mosquitoes coming in fast over the city. Flying between buildings. 50 feet up. Windows level. Norwegian civilians on the streets are pointing. Some running. Some just standing there watching. Because this is impossible. Bombers don't fly this low in cities. But here they are. 4 wooden planes with RAF roundels screaming through downtown Oslo like they own the place. De Havilland sees Victoria Terrace. Kleebo confirms, that's it. The 5-story building with the flag. Gestapo headquarters. De Havilland lines up. He's doing 320 miles per hour. 50 feet up. Threading through buildings. The hospital is right there. 20 feet to the left. Can't drift. Can't miss. One shot. At 11:27 a.m. he releases 2 500-pound bombs. They travel for exactly 1.2 seconds. Then hit Victoria Terrace on the 4th floor. Right where Heinrich Fehlis is sitting. The explosion is massive. The entire 4th floor disintegrates. Windows blow out. The roof collapses. Fire erupts. Fehlis and everyone on that floor are killed instantly. The filing rooms on the 3rd floor ignite. Thousands of documents burn. De Havilland pulls up. Banks hard right. Kirkpatrick in Mosquito 3 is right behind him. Releases his bombs. Hit the 3rd floor. More explosions. The building is coming apart. German anti-aircraft guns finally open up. Too late. The mosquitoes are already banking away. Flying between buildings. Too fast. Too close to the ground. The flak guns can't depress low enough to track them. Sandsteby is watching from his window. Speaking into his radio. Direct hits. Building burning. Gestapo headquarters destroyed. Hospital untouched. Repeat, hospital untouched. That last part is crucial. Because the hospital is fine. Not a single bomb fragment hit it. Not one window broken. 20 feet away and completely unscathed. Surgical precision at 320 miles per hour. The mosquitoes are gone. Already 2 miles away. Heading back toward the fjords. The whole attack took 4 minutes from first sighting to last bomb. 4 minutes. The Germans are still trying to figure out what happened. Inside Victoria Terrace it's chaos. The building is on fire. Entire floors collapsed. Gestapo officers and staff are trapped. Some killed by the blast. Some crushed by rubble. Some burned. The basement interrogation cells are filling with smoke. Norwegian prisoners are locked in cells. Guards are dead or fled. The prisoners are screaming. Smoke inhalation. Fire spreading. No way out. Then something unexpected happens. Norwegian civilians rush into the burning building. Not to loot. Not to watch. To save people. Even Gestapo prisoners. Even collaborators. Because that's not who they are. They pull people out. Drag them to safety. Risk their lives running into a burning building to save enemies. One Norwegian civilian, a man named Olaf Hansen, pulls 3 Gestapo officers from the rubble. Then goes back in for prisoners. Gets 4 Norwegians out of the basement cells before the smoke drives him back. He's 47 years old. A teacher. Has no training in rescue. Just runs into fire because people are dying. Hansen survives. Gets a medal from the Norwegian government after the war. But he never talks about it. Says he wasn't being heroic. Says anyone would have done the same. But they didn't. He did. The death toll at Victoria Terrasse. 74 Germans. 26 Norwegian civilians who worked as clerks and translators. And 0 people in the hospital. The raid accomplished everything it was supposed to. Files destroyed. Headquarters wrecked. Gestapo operations in Norway disrupted for months. But one mosquito didn't make it home. Mosquito number 4. Pilot Officer James McGilvray and his navigator Flight Lieutenant Thomas Reed. They got hit by debris from their own bombs. The blast wave from the explosion caught them as they pulled up. Damaged the port engine. They made it out of Oslo but couldn't make it back across the North Sea. They crashed in neutral Sweden. Both survived. Spent the rest of the war interned by Swedish authorities. When the war ended, they returned to Britain as heroes. But McGilvray always said the same thing: we were the lucky ones. The people in that building weren't. De Havilland, Klæbo, and Kirkpatrick made it home. All 3 planes landed back at Lutjers by 2 p.m. 5 hours after takeoff. They flew 1,000 miles each way. Hit a specific building in a city. Didn't damage the hospital 20 feet away. And got out before German fighters could respond. The after-action report notes something interesting. When they debriefed Klæbo, he broke down. Started crying. The British officers thought he was injured. Checked him over. He was fine physically, but emotionally destroyed. Because he just helped bomb his own city. His home. He knew people in that building. Not Germans. Norwegians working as clerks. People he went to school with. The RAF psychologist noted, Flight Lieutenant Klæbo understands the mission was necessary. Understands lives were saved by destroying those files. But he navigated bombers to his own city and watched it burn. That's a cost we don't often consider. He performed brilliantly. But the price he paid wasn't physical. Klæbo flew 12 more missions. Never back to Norway. Couldn't do it again. After the war, he returned to Oslo. Walked past Victoria Terrasse. The building had been rebuilt. New glass. New walls. Like nothing happened. But Klæbo knew. He stood there for an hour. Just looking. A passerby asked if he was okay. Klæbo said, I destroyed this building once. Sometimes I think that was the best thing I ever did. Sometimes I think it was the worst. Gunnar Sandsteby, the resistance radio operator, continued fighting until liberation in May 1945. He survived the war. Became a national hero in Norway. Gave interviews about the raid. Always said the same thing. The British flew 1,000 miles to save Norwegian lives. They could have carpet bombed the whole area. Easier. Safer for them. But they didn't. They risked everything to hit one building and spare the hospital. That's the difference between us and the Germans. In 1947, the Norwegian government held a ceremony honoring the Mosquito crews. De Havilland, Kirkpatrick, and Klæbo attended. So did survivors of the raid. Both Norwegian civilians and German officers who'd been in the building. One German officer, a man named Klaus Weber who'd been a mid-level Gestapo administrator, approached Klæbo. Weber was 34 when the raid happened. Survived because he was in the bathroom on the 2nd floor when the bombs hit. Spent 2 years in Norwegian prison after the war for collaboration. Released in 1947. Weber walked up to Klæbo. Extended his hand. You navigated those planes. Klæbo nodded. Didn't shake the hand. Just looked at him. Weber continued, I want you to know something. That building was evil. What we did there was evil. I knew it then. Didn't have the courage to stop it. You did. You flew here and stopped it. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just want you to know that some of us knew what we were doing was wrong. And you were right to destroy it. Klæbo finally shook his hand. Said, you could have left. Could have refused. Weber, yes. I could have. I didn't. That's on me. But you? You had the courage I didn't. Thank you. That conversation is recorded in Norwegian archives. Because Weber's statement was used in his parole hearing, the judge noted that acknowledging guilt and thanking the people who stopped you is as close to redemption as some people get. De Havilland returned to Oslo in 1972 for the 30th anniversary of the raid. By then he was 62 years old, retired, living quietly in London. The Norwegian government invited him as a guest of honor. They took him to see Victoria Terrasse. The building had been converted to government offices again. Modern. Plain. No plaque. No memorial. Just a building. De Havilland asked why there was no marker. The Norwegian official said, "Because we don't want to remember what this building was. We want to remember what you did. And that's not about a building. It's about the choice you made. To risk everything to hit one target. To spare the hospital. To fight with precision instead of hate. That's the memorial. That you flew 1,000 miles to be careful." De Havilland died in 1987. His obituary in the Times of London mentioned 40 combat missions, 3 distinguished flying crosses, a career of distinguished service. But the line that got repeated most was what he said in 1972. "We were bomber pilots. We destroyed things. That was our job. But in Oslo for 4 minutes, we proved that destruction can be moral. That you can fight evil without becoming it. That precision matters. That hospitals matter. That civilians matter. Even in war." The Oslo raid became the model for precision strikes. Inspired later operations. The Amiens prison raid. The Shell House raid in Copenhagen. Dozens of missions where the goal was surgical removal of a target without collateral damage. But it started in Oslo. September 25, 1942. 4 wooden planes. 8 men. 1 building. 4 minutes. And a choice to fight with precision instead of overwhelming force. Today there's a small memorial in Oslo. Not at Victoria Terrasse. At Rikshospitalet. The hospital. A plaque that reads, September 25, 1942. British bombers destroyed the Gestapo headquarters 20 feet from this building. Not one patient was harmed. This is what precision looks like. This is what caring looks like. Even in war. Every year on September 25th, Norwegian veterans and British RAF representatives hold a ceremony there. They stand outside the hospital, look toward where Victoria Terrasse stands, and they remember that war doesn't have to be total. That bombing doesn't have to be indiscriminate. That even in the darkest times, you can choose to be careful. The Mosquito cruise proved that 1,000 miles from home, flying at 50 feet through a city, at 300 miles per hour, you can still hit exactly what you aim for and spare everything else. Heinrich Fahles died at his desk reviewing files that would have sent hundreds of Norwegians to concentration camps. Those files burned. Those people lived. The resistance reorganized. And the Gestapo in Norway never fully recovered. 4 minutes. 1 building. 0 hits on the hospital. That's not luck. That's skill. That's courage. That's caring about who lives and who dies. That's precision at 50 feet.